Hello and welcome back to my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. Now in this video, I honestly feel this Asian man should have just kept quiet. I mean, there was no point of making this video to start with, and secondly, he's making fun of his followers that might have told him to comment about what's happening between Israel and Palestine, looking at maybe the type of influence he has and the number of followers he has as a content creator. Now it's okay not to want to comment on certain issues or major global events, but in all honesty, if truly he never wanted to get involved in all of this, he would have maintained his silence, unlike him justifying nothing by making fun of people who believe in him. Now I find this video giving some certain type of vibes which I can't even describe, but I guess it is what it is. Check it out.
Oh my god, there's a major global conflict. What are your thoughts?
Me?
Yes, what's your opinion on the conflict?
I'm just an influencer, not a political commentator.
Yeah, and you have millions of followers, so you're responsible to use your platform for the greater good.
I'm a TikToker. Bro, don't even start. They're boycotting our coffee because we wanted to be neutral.
And that's your fault. We're voting with our dollars and fighting for the oppressed.
Okay, yeah, but you boycotting our stores really only hurt our minimum wage workers because our stock prices are back up, so you really just prevented poor people from getting paid. Yeah, and I'm just an entertainer, so I'm not really qualified to talk about something so complex.
Saying you don't know enough is not an excuse. You should do your research. There are people being oppressed.
Right, I'm not saying I don't do my research, I'm just saying I'm not comfortable giving my opinion in front of millions of people. And you say you're for the oppressed, and yet you're coercing me to do something that I don't want to do. You ever think that you might be part of the problem?
No, I need you to validate my opinion or become someone I try to cancel for disagreeing with me, because how else can I make a positive change? Try saying that 10 times.
I don't know, donate to a non-profit organization, volunteer, talk to your representative, local politician, literally anyone except an influencer.
Now, it only takes a minute to raise awareness, even a couple of seconds to just hit repost or post something to your story. But this guy is acting as if people are really forcing him to do it. Now, what I'm trying to understand is how he is comfortable with talking about certain things, but when it comes to things that really matter, he just doesn't want to be involved. Like, he's not moved by this G side. So it is none of his business and he's not going to get involved. Let's check out a few stitches, and when I get back, we talk more about this, and I also get to share how or what the comment section looks like and what they had to say about this video. Here are the stitches.
Don't mind me, I know I look a mess. I just left the park dropping neck on male genitalia. That said, I feel like these videos are so counterproductive and make you look even sillier and crazier than you anticipate yourself to look. Because it's one thing to have a smartphone and be like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. It's another thing to be like, all right, I don't want to speak on it. I get that, I respect it. I'm in the camp of, if you don't have nothing to say, don't say nothing, because it's probably stupid as fuck anyway. But I feel like the time that you take to make videos like this, saying you don't feel qualified to speak on a thing, bro, this kind of makes no sense, because if it was you or your fucking whack-ass family, I feel like you'd want us to say something. I don't know. All of a sudden the tune would change. Like, it only gets crazy when it impacts you. I don't know. Like my mama used to say, the time you spent playing them games is the time you could have spent reading them books. Ugh.
I know it doesn't feel like it all the time, but shutting the fuck up is always on the table. It's always on the table. Were your drafts full? Why did you post this? The thing that makes it so crazy to me is the fact that the people that we're talking about right now, their dying wish was for us to bear witness to what they're going through, to talk about it, and to keep talking about it. And for you to openly mock the people who are doing that will forever be crazy to me. What the fuck is wrong with you? I also happen to notice that you refer to yourself as a case study in God's grace. There is a reason that Muslim Palestinians reached out to the Muslim community around the world, and the Christian Palestinians didn't even bother to reach out to Christians around the world. They know what it is. They know this is how you feel about them, which again, if you're right and you don't have to speak about it, especially if you're going to open your mouth and say shit like this.
First of all, the time you had to come up with the skit, write down the script, film and edit it, and post it, you could have dedicated that time to learning about Palestine and Israel. Second of all, you got a lot to say for somebody that gave a bunch of people chlamydia. Yeah, we ain't forget about that and the other stuff that you did. You would have done better just to shut up. Now people are finding out about your tea again.
For those of you who don't speak politician, what he's basically saying is that he's not willing to risk his platform or future opportunities by taking his stance in the ongoing Palestinian ethnic cleansing. But he also knows he can't just come online and say that because people expect him to have an opinion on things since he consistently commentates on previous genocides. And look, you're entitled to do that. You're entitled to take a neutral stance. But what I'm not going to let slide is you positioning it as some sort of intellectual or morally superior position. So let's take a look at the claims.
Real people telling us what's happening.
Right, because we can trust those videos and the expert opinions of those journalists, the scientists, accredited officials, elected officials, because that works so well for us during quarantine and the Ukrainian conflict.
See, this is where you attempt to use the skepticism that people have of their government and media against them. You want people to think that they can't trust any piece of information or media that they hear. And that's simply not the case. We can look at the pieces of information that both parties, all parties, agree actually happened. For instance, we understand that Israel, the United Nations, America, all report that the Israeli government only gave the Palestinian people in Gaza 24 hours to evacuate from North Gaza, which means we have no reason to doubt this information. The only thing left to evaluate is whether or not 24 hours was sufficient time to evacuate close to 1 million people, if not more. The United Nations seems to think that wasn't enough time. But if you have some wisdom, some information that would lead you to believe that that was sufficient, then you should probably weigh in because I would love to hear it.
You make political videos about Korea and Japan all the time, and you can't even talk about what's going on once? I'm disappointed.
It's because I actually know what I'm talking about. I'm fluent in Korean and Japanese. I've lived in both countries. I studied at one of the top 5 universities in the world under one of the most renowned experts of politics in Asia. And
in this next bit, you try to hide behind your expertise in another subject. Are you suggesting that it takes advanced education to understand and recognize a humanitarian crisis? If that were the case, we as a human species would not be able to react to literally any ongoing human rights crisis. We would also be completely devoid of common sense. Would we have needed 4 years to recognize the Holocaust? See, that's just you being disingenuous. If anything, your expertise in genocides that have happened elsewhere in the world should serve you in recognizing it better and faster than any normal person. This last point is probably the most asinine of all of your points.
And when I see the world trying to tear itself apart, I don't think it's a bad idea for me to try to keep it together. Maybe make you guys laugh and maybe even heal a little bit. Instead,
the idea that your voice is somehow better served in just making both sides laugh in an ongoing ethnic cleanse, that's what you feel like is your best possible contribution.
Responsible to use.
The irony of this dude talking about being responsible, he couldn't tell his partners that he had chlamydia. Anyways, y'all seem to be really like rah-rah about telling people how much you have nothing to say about anything. If you have nothing to say about, genocide, maybe you shouldn't have a platform. Don't think you can be a political commentator to say genocide bad, don't like genocide. Just an influencer. On what planet though? On the same planet where huge global events happen? Probably should have some fucking books influence you, Jesus Christ.
As much as I talk about munching on male genitalia and random white men from time to time, with a little bit of mix of comics and childhood trauma, I feel like even then there is still plenty of time to get some type of informed on what the fuck is going on in the world, whether you want to like it or not. And I say that because I'm in the camp of, if you don't know what you're talking about, fine, don't talk about it. But telling us that you don't know what you're talking about makes you look even more idiotic, especially because we pay $1,500 for these little tools called smartphones to keep us in the then and out. I would rather we all just say we don't and go from there.
Let me just give my 2 cents before we go into talking about this issue. No shade really to this content creator who did this skit, but I think influencers who just like wash their hands off any serious topics ever, not really saying they need to comment on every issue, just like I said earlier, because some people could stand to shut up, but the simple fact is that the hyper individualism in the world is a big, very big reason why there is so much suffering, because we don't stand up for more stuff. And yeah, if the boycotts hurt the lower class workers, that means you have to boycott long enough for it to hit the people at the top of their share price. Well, this is just my opinion, and sometimes your stances of not educated enough or able to put together a thought on this, here are some other people that you can, like, you don't have to speak up, but you should engage, because people can do many things to help with these issues, such as campaigning to raise awareness and action, inventing new solutions, or innovating through new practices, all those things. Now, we have seen influencers and content creators on social media gaining a prominent role in today's information environment as opinion makers and agenda setters. They are no longer solely relevant in the communication and marketing strategies of companies, but are also gaining importance in the political information ecosystem. As such, influencers and content creators share or post political content, make recommendations for whom to vote, or even act on behalf of political parties, and even talk about things that are affecting people on a daily basis, or things that are trending. Now, their role in sharing information is becoming even more and more important as more and more people, especially young people, consume information and news almost exclusively through social media platforms. Now, in their respective information ecosystems, influencers enjoy high credibility among their followers. In addition, influencers have infiltrated the ranks of traditional media makers, while traditional media have been weakened and journalists are at times restricted in their work. This is more reason why I feel content creators really need to talk about these issues, because they're really important. They create that awareness. Him not wanting to say something, or rather creating that awareness for oppressed people, kind of reminds me of the civil movement, where many of the fundamental ideas that drove the genesis of the Asian American movement came from the Black Power movement. Imagine if Black people also washed their hands then and said, no, this is not our business, we're not going to say anything about this. But likewise, much of the legislation that has come to have the most profound effect on the history of Asians in America occurred during the civil movement, a time that is often associated with the struggle for Black equality. But the struggle was not limited to that of African Americans only. In a time where minorities often find themselves in competition for similar resources, it behooves us to look back at history and the way that minorities have been linked not only by common experiences of expression and articism, but also by striving for goals that idealize freedom and equality for all individuals. Now, in a time where we enjoy unprecedented freedom and opportunities lie thick before us, it is often too easy to ignore those times in which we lacked simple rights, or to forget the shared struggles fought to forge present circumstances. I feel so many histories are shared between people who often feel that they lack anything in common, and it is ignorance to these differences that will drive us apart. Now, in determining Asian American identity, one must have a sense of history. Only by knowing where we have been, we will be able to understand where we are and where we are going. It is very impossible to look upon history as an isolated set of circumstances that apply to one ethnic or racial group. Oppression is multifaceted and affects many people, and only by working together can racial and cultural oppression be overcome. When we come to understand that fact, we will realize that despite skin color, language, or culture, a shared history makes us all more alike than we think. Kindly share your own thoughts on what you think about this content creator and what he said in his video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video as I bring you another interesting video.